Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here. Welcome back. Hey good people. Today we are coming to do something that I've realized I really love to do, which is discussion questions of books that I've completed a review for. I think discussion questions allows me the opportunity to expound on my thoughts and share more knowledge and information with you all. And today we're going to do the discussion questions provided by PBS for The Street by Ann Petry. If you haven't seen the review, go ahead and check it out. Let's get into the discussion questions. Question number 1. Why do you think Petry chose The Street as the title of the book? What does the street symbolize for Letty Johnson? So I think she chose the street for 2 reasons. One is everything is confined to this street. It's really a block, but it stretches, and so everything that's really significant happens there. It's confined to the individuals who live there and everything they have going on. But also the street is symbolic of just like urban America in general. On any street, this could be any street, and so I think that's why The Street is the title of the work. 2, why does the story of Benjamin Franklin resonate so strongly with Letty? How does her vision of the American dream change throughout the book? So I think it's that self-starter, that's innovation, the ability to pull oneself up by their bootstraps and really get it done. So I think she really associates with that get it done type of attitude. However, that changes over time when she realizes that she is Black in America, a woman in America, a single mother in America, and all of the obstacles therein. And so she realizes that though she can connect with that vision and that dream, it's harder for her. 3, what does the cover-up of Mr. Chandler's brother's suicide make Letty realize about the relationship between money, class, and race in the US? How does she criticize the white community's emphasis on money? What about the importance of money in American society at large? So I think it makes her realize that if you are the right ethnicity, if you have the right financial status, that you can make anything happen. You can even transition something from a suicide to an accident, and the power in that, the power to control the narrative, which she cannot do. She criticizes a few things, but also one is their obliviousness, the power that they have with money, but then the lack of true empathy, and then the importance of money in the American society at large. It's so important because we do live in a capitalistic society that money plays a huge part, right? Capital. However, it's this American dream to be able to stand on your own and create different avenues, entrepreneurship, different things, but not everyone starts from the same starting point, and not everyone has the same equal opportunities or equitable opportunities. 4, how do Letty and Mrs. Hedges each represent a different embodiment of the American dream? Were you critical of Mr. Hedges' work with Junto, or is she simply looking out for her own financial well-being? So Letty is trying to do it herself. They're both entrepreneurs, they're both Black women, they both had different experiences. Letty is very attractive. Mrs. Hedges has gone through a horrific fire and accident therein and has scars. But even before that, she was very tall, very stoic type of figure. So there were challenges therein either way. I think one, Letty is trying to, again, do it herself, trying to be honorable. But Mrs. Hedges is like, by any means necessary, whether that includes pimping out women, whether that includes working out with this white man, whether that includes whatever, she's I'm gonna get it by any means. And that's the 2 roles that they're taking. Now granted, depending on your moral standing, you can view one better than the other, but there are 2 women trying to find stability and success. I didn't really judge her. I didn't judge Miss Hedges. She gonna get it how she live. So I'm not judging her for that. I'm never judging people for how they choose to make a living. Is that the avenue which I would have taken? No. Do I think her pimping out young girls is the best way? No. Do I think her adding to the challenges that Letty has to face or making her life harder so that Junto can get easier access to her is right? No. 5, How does Petry utilize details of place and setting, such as the weather or descriptions of Harlem and the apartments in Letty's neighborhood throughout the book? How does setting play a role in the life Letty envisions for herself? Setting is critical. I told you this, she's super detailed in writing this book. Even as we first start, I told you it's like a windstorm, and even just using that, it's this world when it's chaos, right? Of you trying to fight against the wind, trying to find stable footing, and it becomes symbolic for the book, and it happens throughout the book. There are more examples like that. You know, Letty sees herself in a different environment. She sees the apartment, the room she's confined in. She sees something different, something more for her and Bub, and it's everything for her, from whether she's in the setting where she's working for this wealthy family and she sees the difference, so she knows what she's lacking. And sometimes that's harder for her. Having seen it and then be in this position makes it even more challenging to accept. 6, I can't see anything ahead of me except these walls that push in against me, Letty thinks at one point. What sort of figurative walls or obstacles does she come up against throughout the book? I talk about this in my review, so many. At every turn, there's a man who wants her in a way that she doesn't need them to want her. She wants and needs access. She wants and needs stability. They want to offer it to her, but with contingents, whether that be sex, marriage, whatever. It's not what she needs and what she desires. So she keeps running against that. Money is a huge obstacle, right? Her inability to have it and keep it. And that creates its own cataclysm of problems that progresses throughout the book and really propels our story forward. 7, Letty experiences racism, sexism, and poverty throughout her life. Does she find any of these forms of oppression more intolerable than the other in your view? In poverty, she finds it unbearable. She understands the other aspects, whether that's race, whether that's her sex, her gender, but poverty, it just feels so burdensome because she can't figure out how to escape it. And the more she tries, the harder it becomes. 8, at one point in the book, Letty thinks to herself that she hates white people and will always hate them. But then, Petry writes, she forced herself to stop that train of thought. It led nowhere. It was unpleasant. Why does she have the impulse to stop herself from thinking this way? Because it doesn't do anything to get her to where she's trying to be. Yes, she understands the obstacles that she's against. She understands systemic, institutionalized barriers that are placed against her. But knowing that and accepting that hate and just being fixated on it to the point that you are immobilized and can't do anything else isn't beneficial, and she recognizes that. So she understands what the game is and she's trying to beat it, and that in of itself doesn't propel her, doesn't help her in any way. 9, how do views of masculinity at the time influence the respective identities of Junto, Bootsmith, and Jones? So this is the time where it's expected that men should lead. Men should lead the household. I mean, still today, but men should be the leader of the house. Men should provide, but the reality is that many of them cannot. So for instance, of Junto, he's this savvy businessman who's been able to become affluent, but he uses his wealth in order to harm others. And some people don't want to see it that way, but that's the reality. He's someone who likes to manipulate and control. Bootsmith really does the same thing. He offers you opportunities, but is really linked to the fact that he wants to be with you in some manner. Jones is someone who becomes such a savage, is the right word, because he loses his humanity because he's stuck in the positions that he's in, and he becomes so fixated on his desires that he can't even see the harm that he's causing. So masculinity is very toxic here, actually. Even the lawyer, because he says like she didn't need an attorney, and if he would have told her that at that moment, it would have changed so much. But he's like, that's an easy $200. Why would he tell her that? Men who are not willing to really help her. So again, toxic masculinity of power and control. Number 10, certain parts of the street are told from the point of view of characters other than Letty, such as Bootsmith and Mean. Did this help you to better understand the circumstances of or sympathize with these characters? Yes, it does help to better understand the circumstances. You know, it's nothing better than hearing a story from someone's point of view, hearing their own story from their point of view. So we do get that. So we're able to get more insight. But does it cause me to be more sympathetic? Not really. I wouldn't say that it did. It helped me to be more understanding, maybe show a bit more compassion, but to sympathize with those characters, no. Because these characters, everyone makes choices. And these characters are all choosing their situations. And eventually they can choose something different, which Mean does. But it didn't really create sympathy for me. Because I also felt like these characters had no sympathy for Letty. And I think that as our protagonist, I had sympathy for her. And they didn't. And so that played a part as well. 11. Were you hopeful about Mean's life after she moved out from Jones's apartment? I mean, I hope that she's okay, but it didn't seem as if she had learned her lesson and she was about to make the same decision again that had gotten her into this predicament because she didn't want to be alone. And loneliness is a tricky thing and you should make decisions based on it. And she was about to do that. And so I don't have high hopes that she's in a better situation, but maybe. 12. Did Bub's fate make you think about the plight of many young men of color who are born into difficult circumstances today? How so? You can't read this book and not have that thought. But it really made me think bigger than him, right? Because the story is bigger than him. Yes, he is the one who is probably the most impacted by everything else that happens, but it really is a tragedy, all of it, and how all of these different aspects lead to this one drastic and horrible situation. So I do hope that he becomes stronger and can make it through the system, but it's all very devastating, and I'm sure that he's about to have a very tough time. But Letty and all these other people also had a very tough time, but it sucks that he is the collateral damage of it. 13. Why does the opportunity to sing at the casino mean so much initially to Letty? Could you understand why the outcome engendered so much anger within her? It was an opportunity for her to progress beyond her current situation, for her to be in a better situation. It was a hope. Sometimes hope, when it's shattered, can be so devastating because then you feel bad that you even held that hope, but you have to have hope in life to make it through. So for her, she had this hope. It was shattered and it was snatched away from her. So I do understand why she was so angry, because she had so much riding on it. So I absolutely understood her anger and frustration. 14. Was Letty's retaliation against Boots Smith justified? That's a hard question. He got a lot of anger that probably wasn't due to him, but he just became like the physical representation of everything. So unfortunate, but I did understand where she was coming from. Is that probably what he deserved? Probably not. But I understood her triggers and how she got to such a point of rage. 15. Did you read this as a feminist story? Yeah, you can see, I could absolutely see aspects of that for sure. You can't read it and not see that. 16. Although The Street was published in 1946, it feels contemporary in many ways. What themes resonate most strongly with modern day America? That ain't much changed. Listen, same game, different day, different players. But the ability of like the struggles you go through in an urban environment, the struggles of being a single parent, the struggles of being over-sexualized, the struggles of having this rage, the struggles of not being able to pursue certain dreams that you have. There's so much that's still here, and the idea of still chasing the American dream when in reality it's a fantasy that's been sold and doesn't really exist. So much is still relevant. 17. The Street has been compared to Richard Wright's Native Son. If you have read this book, do you see similarities in the themes of the two works, differences? Of course. Obviously, many similarities. Urban America, race, navigating through that anger, and when that anger actually comes out and what happens as a result of that. We also see differences in that the two like protagonists, one is a woman, one is a male. You get two different perspectives, but there is still a young male who's impacted as a result of it. The white individuals and how they play roles in the it's different within those books, but definitely two stories that have many similarities, and I could actually see them being read and taught in unison to compare the themes and ideas. That would actually be really good. 18. Although The Street was a sensation when first published, it has largely faded from the wider American literary canon. Why do you think this is? Because I think it holds up a looking glass and people don't like to see that reflected back onto them. I think it's a masterpiece. I think that we should continue advocating for it to be read, continue mentioning it, continue bringing it up, because I do think it's a brilliant novel and I do think it's a part of that literary canon. I just think that she did such a masterful job of showing the entire system and how it can break a person that people don't really want to grapple with that. It's easier to ignore it, right? It's easier to want to fix the scar instead of like healing it. Like what actually caused that, right? We often talk about that, like, oh, we have to make sure that children are good. Yes, but this book continues to exemplify that children are good unless their parents are good and the neighborhoods they're living in are healthy and strong. And so it's like, it's not this one thing. You're like, I want to fix this one thing, but it's like, in order to really help this one thing, you have to help everything around it in its sphere, in its space. And no one wants to grapple with that aspect of it. So yes, let's continue to advocate for reading The Street. Let's continue dissecting it. Let's continue discussing it, because I think it's relevant, it's pertinent, and it definitely needs to be discussed. That is it for me. I'm MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. And until the next one, please remember to give time, to be kind to each other, and to have the very best day of your life on purpose. Peace, odabo, adios, ciao.